All right, mic check. I think we're situated here. All right, just like that, we're back in business. Thank you so much for being here, just settling in. Back to the grind, right? Back to the grind, back to talking about the one, the only GameStop. Quite the journey this stock has been on. I got the chart pulled up in the other tab here. I got some other stuff to go over in terms of Bitcoin and some just miscellaneous things that have been going on with the company and being talked about as of late across social media. Of course, you got Sultan's post, a lot of people talking about this as of late. So we'll speculate on that a little bit. Nothing wrong with a little bit of speculation, but I don't want to go too crazy. Some people are like, oh, it's a super secret merger, this and that, and all this crazy stuff. You just got to kind of take a step back and just digest things as they come in, right? You don't want to rush into things, right? That's at least how I approach it. Of course, I'm not in the business of telling people what to do. So always make your own decisions, your own determinations based on your own financial situation. I really feel like that's important. And an underestimated aspect of the GameStop story, in my opinion, is that it's brought in a lot of people and just individuals from various backgrounds, various, different careers, various amounts of experience in the markets overall to be a situation where a lot of people are learning a lot about market mechanics, how to read a balance sheet, all those types of things that they probably never would have read about before if they didn't get involved in GameStop. And of course, it's not the situation for everyone, but I think that is, something that's definitely underestimated with this story. And there's the constant just dismissal. Oh, the silly apes, the silly people, like, oh yeah, like they don't know what they're doing. They're just buying and holding them like a dream, right? And it's really much more than that. Everyone, again, I can't speak for everyone, but that's just how I see it at least. But Squirrely Squirrel says dump GME. Again, you can do whatever you want, but thanks for popping in. Yo, Joe, what's up? Thanks for being here. Tetron, the Grape Ape, what's up? What's up? Thanks for popping in. But yeah, so I think the first thing I want to talk about, well, first, got the guys dancing here. AI is a whole lot of fun. I keep saying this, but I feel like it's so true. I've been tweeting a lot, rather. AI is so fun, but scary at the same time. And I just look at it as everyone else is going to use it anyway, so I might as well use it as well for my own purposes. But if you look closely at Ryan's face here, you can really see he starts to look like an alien during it. But at a glance, like it's crazy how real it looks. It looks like they're doing some TikTok type of dance. But again, just for fun, I'm just messing with AI more and more. And this post over here, a lot of people too, like probably, whoa, this looks so real, but it's literally just a screenshot I got. And I figured, use a little marketing for me. Tetron will be live on YouTube at 5 p.m. Eastern talking GameStop and the latest markets. Larry says, sweet, I'll be there. Because obviously that's definitely what they said. It's 100% real, guys. But, oh man, what a journey this stock is on, right? You had this steady run up here, then all of a sudden, for the first time in a while, we got this dreaded 10% down candle, right? Like all throughout here, you had a day right here, like elongated periods here. But if you look as of late, since the pop we had over the summer and a lot of the drama, I wouldn't say drama, just events surrounding the company and Roaring Kitty coming back or however you want to look at it, right? We hadn't had a significant down day like this in quite a while. So if we shrink it down here, you can see what was that on Tuesday? Just dropped like a rock. And it's kind of stagnated since. I don't know what's going to happen from here, but honestly, I'd be surprised if it goes below maybe 20. I think this is probably the lowest level it could go, but those of you that know me know I'm not a master at TA, so take that with the utmost grain of salt. And those of you who know me also know I don't really trade. Like I really just buy and hold the stock. That's my personal approach. So I've started to mess with selling options a little bit. So I guess technically I am trading, right? But I just look at it as, generally speaking, when you're selling options, you're on the better side of the trade because more options expire worthless than those that expire in the money, right? That's just across the board, markets as a whole. So with that being the case, I feel like it's the better side of the trade to be on. Again, that's just my opinion. And when I am selling options, it's in a account that's completely separate from what positions I'm long in, right? So I've been, selling puts on GameStop. I've been fortunate enough where I haven't been exercised yet because, it's been holding up pretty well. And I usually sell pretty deep out of the money puts. It depends. Like I just had one for $26 that was expiring today. So I got to keep the full premium. My collateral's released back to me, and now I can reevaluate, going into the week ahead. What do I want to do? I've kind of been selling monthly puts for GameStop, but again, make your own determination. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to talk about what's going on and just cover the story because I feel like mainstream media and a lot of people are covering it in a crazy way. So I'm just trying to cover it in the most legit, just down to earth, like, hey, this is how I'm seeing it. This is what some people are saying. This is what some other people are saying, right? And that's just my approach. But AI is a lot of fun, right? So I've been generating a bunch of these different type of videos and I've been messing with this AI generator Kling. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy the stuff you could do these days. And low key, insider info, working on a AI-based, completely AI-based GameStop video. So stay tuned. You can kind of see some of the stuff I've been creating here. So stay tuned for that. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to drop that, but that's how I got this here. But one thing I do want to touch on is how these crazy theories come out with GameStop, right? Like there are lots of theories that I've seen over time, and I feel completely numb to them at this point, to be honest with you, because it's a situation where there's been so many, like, this is the day, like, this is the signal, this is what it's going to be, this is the big hype date, and literally, I can't even think of one hype date that's come to fruition. So, that's why I shy away from calls, especially with GameStop, because you just know there's all this hype around these certain dates and it never comes to fruition. It's just not worth it, right? And when I see stuff like this, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is why people who are just loosely following the stock, they're not closely following what's going on with it, maybe don't know the whole story or whatever the case, they will see something like this and think all of these people are out of their mind. Anyone that owns GameStop is clearly out of their mind if they think this means something, right? Like these are just coincidences. So, like, and then people say, "Oh, it's a coincidence," right? Like Cohen's name, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I don't know. I'm just so numb to it all because I've seen so many of these come and go. And like when I saw the whole Greg thing, I'm like, there's just no way. Like I just knew. Like I was like, there's literally no way this is gonna be true, right? And that's why I made this meme. And sure enough, you had people on here like, I'm saving this to see how it's gonna turn out, right? I mean, a lot of different responses, right? And I'm trying to respond a lot. So let's see. Funny but wrong. But Greg and Gil both start with the letter G. That was funny. Still posting with GME, are you? How short are you? Like, I'm literally long the stock. I mean, Twitter's a wild place, right? So it is what it is, but a lot of different responses. So he's RC, got it. Ryan Kitty's not a cat. Greg's also not a cat. See, a lot of different stuff. And then see, it's okay to be regarded, but it's not okay to spread misinformation. And then this account today also said to me, like, Hager was like, who runs Tetra Invest? To be clear, like there's no firm. I'm just a regular guy on the internet, just like everyone else out there, right? But that's what kind of drives me crazy with these theories at this point. I'm like, oh my gosh, like they've just gotten so out of hand, and it just naturally makes everybody assume that everybody that's holding GameStop stock believes all these crazy theories out there. Again, you could think differently, but I've started to formulate the opinion, and I think someone had said this here, something similar. Let's see. See, maybe one of your family offices has the correct position. I don't even know what this means. Manufacture discontent. I agree. Banana Hands. Shout out to you. But let's see. Somebody did say something pretty similar. Oh boy, this guy. Not even get into that today, but somebody said something along the lines of, and I agree with this, that there are a lot of theories and a lot of things that are, how do I put this? There are things that are being brought to light that are like, wow, this is actually how it works, right? In terms of like market mechanics, how a short position is closed, how different trades are executed, how collateralized swaps work, things of that nature. Those things get brought to light. And those are like legitimate things, and you do have to read into them. But it almost seems like there are bad actors involved, right? For whatever reason, one reason or another, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But it seems like there are people intentionally spreading these crazy ideas, and then maybe some bot accounts, boosting them up. So then they spread, and they're some of the most liked up posts. They show up in your feed, and people who are on the outside, in terms of not holding the stock, get that stuff in their feed and they're like, this is crazy. Who believes this crap, right? So it's almost like these like insane theories are purposely being made by some form of bad actors, right? I don't know, right? I'm just speculating here. To purposely make people think that every single GameStop shareholder is a nutcase and is absolutely crazy. You guys let me know what you think. Is that a crazy idea? But also, I don't know. Maybe there are people who are just digging deep and just have these crazy theories and are just having fun sharing them. But it almost seems like they're manufactured, these crazy ideas. Like, where did this whole Greg thing started? Because somebody explained to me that they found a GIF that he responded to right after Roaring Kitty. Like you just can't use that as evidence. And even if somehow Greg was Roaring Kitty, what would that have mattered? Like, what would that have mattered? Like, that's what I couldn't understand, right? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But Should make an AI video of you dancing. Maybe, Joe. Maybe. Maybe if you're lucky. Excuse me. Maybe the stock goes higher. What's up, Tetron? Zeus, hope you're doing well. Dancing vid was pretty dope. Thanks. Yeah, I thought it was just for fun, but it's funny too. Some people are like, definitely AI. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't trying to I'm not saying like, yeah, this is real, right? So, dope Joe, what's up? What's up? Hope you're doing well. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like theories like this are almost being pushed to make the average individual who might read about GameStop every so often look at the stock and say, or look at the company and the people investing in it and say, this is all crazy. This is all absolute nonsense, right? That's what I kind of think, but I don't know. And turn to be, right? Who would have thought? Greg is not roaring kitty. Look at that, right? So just take that stuff with a grain of salt, guys. And listen, again, I'm not in the business of telling people what to do, but just don't buy calls on hype dates, right? Again, I'm not telling you what to do. You can if you want to, but I can never recall a single time where hype dates turned out to be the big thing, right? Or some big thing happened for some date that was hyped up. But maybe that'll change one day. I don't think so, but that's why I personally just focus on the fundamentals of the company and the direction they're going. And speaking of direction they're going, I really feel like they're leaning into the collectibles market more and more. So obviously, we had the election of Nat Turner. So first, they collaborated with PSA officially as of October 15th last year. So we're only about what is it, November, December, January, about 3 months into that, right? And then less or just a little bit over a month after the collaboration with PSA is announced, GameStop appoints Nat Turner to the board of directors. I saw a couple people saying that it was a temporary election. I'm not too sure. But the main thing for me, and when we got the SEC filing, his Form 3, which is, so you'll see a lot of Form 4s, which is like statement of changes in beneficial ownership of securities. So for example, a couple people like such as Mark Robinson right here, right? He sold some shares just for tax purposes, says represents shares sold to cover applicable withholding taxes in connection with the vesting of restricted stock units. The sale does not represent a discretionary trade by the reporting person. So what it's saying is he's selling stock just to cover the taxes associated with the shares that he's compensated in his role at GameStop. So Form 4 is updating you on the position, and that is an update, right? Whereas when you look at a Form 3, it's an initial filing by a directing officer or owner of more than 10%. And, becoming a board member makes Nat Turner have to file a Form 3. So he doesn't have any shares initially, right? As you can see here, he's a director. But when you look at the specifics of him becoming part of GameStop, it's actually a situation where, just like the rest of the board, he's being compensated in shares. So that's the main thing to me, that he's not receiving any fiat compensation. He's receiving stock compensation. So it's in his best interest if the company succeeds. And I really like that GameStop does that. I think more companies should do that because you want the interest of the owners of the company or the people running the company in line with the shareholders of the company. I think it's just beneficial overall, and naturally that brings benefits to customers, right? Or is good for customers in the long run, I would say. So, of course, though, the articles are still going to come out. Ah, yes, GME clearly going bankrupt with 4.6 billion because they say GameStop was down today, and this was when it was down on Tuesday, because they intend to close over 100 stores. They already shuttered over 200 locations in 2024. In the past, many brick and mortar retailers that shut down a high number of their stores have ultimately ended up going bankrupt. Like, that's such a general statement. Like, when I see stuff like this and I see like people posting as like financial advisors and posting like clickbaity stuff, I'm like, should I be writing articles? Should I be a financial advisor? Maybe I could do this, right? I feel like I could, but it's not that I don't know if I necessarily want to. But it's like when you see this stuff on the internet, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if it's just me, but some of the stuff on the internet, guys, is crazy. This article goes on to say the role is primarily to boost Ryan Cohen's image and probably GameStop's image. So not even like this role they're hiring for. They're like, yeah, it's to boost Ryan Cohen's image. He or she will probably also seek to improve consumers' view of GME as well, the newspaper asserted. And by the way, this is referencing an article written in the New York Post by Charlie Gasparino or whatever his name is, the guy that's always like sad, ha! But I think he just, like everyone else, right, on the outside looking in, just associates all GameStop shareholders with all AMC holders. And that's also kind of, what I was talking about before about how these crazy theories come out and then everybody just assumes everyone who owns GameStop stock is, believing all these theories. People also assume like everyone that likes GameStop likes AMC, and that's just not the case, right? So it's just interesting the stuff that goes on. It's a little bit, it seems like a little bit of social engineering to an extent, but also I don't know, right? It's hard to know what is by design and what is just kind of naturally happening, right? But all you can do is do your own research, do your own due diligence, and closely follow along with things so you're best informed. I really, really believe in that. So, but Amazon began with books, Netflix started with DVD rentals, Nintendo originated with playing cards. Great companies evolve, right? And how I see GameStop evolving right now is into the trading card market as well as collectibles as a whole. I want to see them do more with it. And in terms of, some speculation as to what's going on with this post, Ryan Cohen, time for bigger and better partnerships, says Sultan Al Madid. I hope I didn't butcher that. When you look him up, he's like a billionaire guy from Qatar, and people are saying, Roy Kitty's posts about Dune was because Qatar has a lot of dunes, right? Speculation, right? It's fine. But again, it's fine to speculate on something like that, but to say, oh, I'm going to buy a call, the stock's going to go up a ton because of like Roaring Kitty's post about Dune, like that's just silly, right? Like that's the stuff that I'm like, oh my gosh. But what could this potentially mean? I do want to say off the bat, it could mean nothing. It could have nothing to do with GameStop. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, but we don't know for sure, right? Until some news comes out of GameStop. That's the other thing too. I personally don't believe anything until GameStop puts something on their newsroom page on their investor relations, right? Like they were talking about PSA. I'm like, okay, interesting. But then they post about it. I'm like, okay, it is actually something they're doing. So I think the best source is always, the company itself, because otherwise people are always going to fabricate these different things potentially going on with them. But what maybe is going on here, I don't know if, in that region, right, in Qatar or Saudi Arabia, that type of area, I'm not the best with geography, so I apologize if I'm messing that up a little bit, but basically in this different region of the world, how the collectibles market is. But I feel like maybe if they are going to, because they've scaled back a lot of their worldwide production, right, or not production, business as a whole, I should say. So in doing that, you would think like, okay, well, why would he go international in a different area? Why would they take the company there? My thought process is maybe it's a situation where they're looking to set up GameStop locations that are card stop locations, right? That are strictly based for trading cards and collectible items. So it's kind of, moving away from the video game model. And I kind of got that thought, in thinking about how, GameStop needs to really evolve. And I think that's been long known and it's something they're working towards. I don't think they'll ever completely go away from gaming, but I definitely think, the trading card market, as I'm learning more and more about it, is a huge thing. And doing the PSA grading was a very significant step. To me, doing the stuff with PSA that they've started to do and adding Nat Turner to the board is the most significant thing they've done since Ryan Cohen's been captain of the ship. That's how I see it, at least. I mean, there's been a lot of little things throughout, such as the Candy Con, and also pull it up here. I got a lot of different stuff. This is my massive drawing board, which I need to add to. I haven't added in a while, right? So, they got Candy. They got this new controller that came out for your phone. You could use this. You could basically turn your phone into a controller. Got a bunch of CandyCon products. They've launched more variations since I added this here. They've also I have a list here. So they've closed unprofitable occasions. They changed the GameStop Pro plan. They began buying and selling cards. Retro GameStops. They launched Mod Retro, which is an exclusive product for GameStop. So they've done a lot of the little things. But to me, the big thing, and this is Mod Retro right here, was the collaboration with PSA. So you can go to not any GameStop, but a lot of GameStops now, and send in your cards through GameStop. I actually just did it last week for the first time. I had a few miscellaneous cards I wanted to send in. And it's something I always kind of thought about doing, but I was always like, I don't know about this process. Like, I don't really feel that comfortable with sending my cards in. I don't really care that much, right? I'm just dabbling in this. But in GameStop having it, I was like, all right, I'm willing to do this as a simple process. I just go to the store, I drop off the cards, I pay, and I wait for the cards to come back. So it's really, to me, in terms of the benefit for PSA, it's like bringing new people into the industry. And for GameStop's benefit, they're facilitating the request and they're bringing more people into the stores. So I feel like they're going to try and scale this worldwide, maybe, right? That's maybe something that has to do with this potentially. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. I'm trying to think on it a little bit more. Let me know if you guys have any ideas. But I just feel like they're not, because if they've scaled back international operations, right? It's not like they're just going to randomly expand again and just open stores with everything. I feel like they would open stores with the intention of them primarily, and maybe even just, domestically in the US initially, with the goal of like focusing on trading cards and the collectibles market. So we'll see. Of course, time will tell. I'm not a future teller or a fortune teller rather, but I feel like they're going to lean into this more and more. And I can't think of any, large name retailer where you can go there and submit your cards for PSA. There's just no retailer right now. Yeah, there's some small card shops, there's some smaller name retailers that have like a few locations, but nobody has the scale that GameStop does that's facilitating grading. So I really feel like this is something that they're going to do more and more with. And I think they really wanted to add Nat Turner onto the board of directors to really just solidify that and have somebody, who's really important there, right? I was going to say somebody who's in touch with things there. Someone who's really important there. He's CEO of Collectors, which is the parent company of PSA. So he is at the very tippy top of operations there. And also, when you watch, he did a great interview. I might have it down here. Yes, right here. Shout out to Neo Cards and Collectibles on YouTube. Watch this interview if you want to watch more about it, learn more about it. But basically, he says that and I started writing some notes on it, that GameStop came to them with the idea. And he also described, I don't know if I wrote it here, he described the way they added PSA grading and just the structure as a whole to be buying and selling cards, Elon Musk like, right? So he was basically giving them high praise for how fast they put it into action. So that's a really good sign to me because, it's all about execution. And in terms of like, I was thinking in the past too, I'm like, is it a merger situation? That would be really interesting. But I don't know about that because the last time Collectors, again, the parent company of PSA, raised capital, it was in March 2022. So that's almost 2 years ago at this point, and it was a $4.3 billion valuation. And they said at the time that their EBITDA had rose 100% year over year. So they were growing a lot. So I'm sure they'd be valued much higher 2 years later. So, and GameStop only has 4.6 billion in cash, so they'd probably need a whole lot more cash for an acquisition type of situation. But maybe it's like a merger situation. I don't know. I pretty much think though, as of now, it's a partnership type of situation. Just want to buy the Switch 2 with my pro membership. Hello, I know what you mean. Have you tried PSA through GameStop? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just submitted a few cards, a couple sports cards, a couple Pokemon cards. We'll see what happens. The Pokemon cards could literally be fake for all I know because I got them like trading with people when I was a kid at like this summer camp. So they're pretty dope. I have like a few more over here. Where is it? Let's see. I'll show you guys. But was Mod Retro a good idea? Jen, thanks for being here. I think it's one of those things where it's like a small move. It's not going to really move the needle or anything dramatic's going to happen. But I think it was a nice little thing that they did. Right? But I have some, various other Pokemon cards here that are a little bit older. Maybe I'll send these in to be graded, but I don't know. I was looking them up. They don't have too much value. But if you guys do send them in, make sure you get, I forgot, it's like a semi-rigid holder. You do need the card to be in this if you're going to submit it for grading. But really, I think as a whole, right, the partnership between PSA and GameStop, where it benefits GameStop is it brings people in the door and it's another service they can facilitate, right? And they're not just focused on products now. Now they're essentially providing a service as well. And for PSA's benefit, it's bringing new people to the game of collecting. For me, right, like I have some, where like I bought some cards from GameStop and I already had like a couple since they started doing the card selling. Is that all of them? Yeah. So I'll show you guys real quick. Probably showed them before, but we'll run it back. Whoa. We got Aaron Judge. See, I got this one a while back. What I do when I get the cards, I take a post-it, I write the amount I paid and the date. So, like I said, I'm just dabbling in it, guys. I'm just getting started. I don't like this Chase card is sick. I really wish it was PSA 10. I mean, he is absolutely cooking as of late. So, only paid 29 bucks for it. Got Justin Jefferson. He's also one of the best. Between Jefferson and Chase, I feel like they're honestly the best receivers in the league. But also got Herbert and TJ Stroud, right? So like I'm just dabbling in the collecting game, I should say. So I feel like GameStop is really like appealing to someone like myself that's just getting started. I'm not sending in a massive amount of cards to get graded. I'm not, buying and selling a whole lot or anything to that extent. I'm just getting started with it, and it's nice that they have a system where I can easily do that. For how out of breath I get when I stream. It's been a minute, but really, thank you guys for being here. It's good to be back. I've been working through some stuff, and I feel like I'm really ready to rock and roll heading into 2025. So, what platform that you're using with all the notes and stuff? Oh, this is called Obsidian. It's awesome. You could take notes, you can put images, you can do live web links, right? And also, collectors, I had a note on it here. They own something called, where is it? Forgot exactly what it was, but it's essentially a grading of old video games. So maybe that's something there to get into down the line. We'll have to kind of see over time. But Tetron, not negative banana, definitely not negative banana. What's up? What's up? Hope you're doing well because I can. Welcome back. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's good to see you. It's good to be back. But yeah, also keep in mind there's always a potential of them raising more capital. Like as I'm just looking through some old stuff here because they did say like we're not raising any more capital until the end. We will not raise any capital for the rest of 2024, fiscal 2024. GameStop's fiscal 2024 ends at the end of this month, so the 31st. So we have 2 weeks till the end of Q4. So if you're not aware, Q4 for GameStop is November, December, January. So we're technically still in Q4 right now. And we'll get Q4 earnings usually about mid-March, and it'll be really interesting to see, like, one, what are the margins, right? I want to see improvement in margins year over year. I think they'll absolutely turn a net profit, and I want to see, SG&A will be higher from Q3 to Q4, but year over year, I want to see it be lower because, Q4 just has the most business for GameStop, like most retail-based companies do. And with that, SG&A is going to be a little bit higher. But I think overall for the year, SG&A will be lower. And also Q4 versus the same quarter last year will be lower. But then, of course, you got to look at revenue. Ideally, there'll be a nice little boost with revenue between PSA, Mod Retro, CandyCon in place this year. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case, though. As it gets closer to earnings, I usually can't come up with like Tetron estimates, right? Analysts come up with estimates, so I come up with my own estimates too, because why not? And I do think revenue will fall year over year in terms of Q4. I don't think as dramatically from 2022 to 2023. Maybe, maybe not. But really what I'm looking for is net income. It would be really nice to see over $100 million of net income. And where it stands right now for the company is when you add all these net income numbers up, as of now, net income for the company is essentially zero. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So the most recent earnings report, right? It gives you for the 13 weeks ended, right? So for Q3, their EPS was 4 cents and their net income was 17.4. And the naysayers will say, well, oh, they're still operating at a loss, right? Their operating profit's negative. It's only the interest income that's causing the turn of profit. Yes, but they're slowly working towards that, right? And that's also why I updated this chart here to reflect the operating margin as well, because you have the gross margin, which is after SG&A. Operating is after cost. Gross margin is after cost of goods. Operating margin is after SG&A. Net margin is after any interest payments and interest income. And by the way, they only have one really, really small loan that they're almost done paying off. And when I say small, like just a couple million relative to 4.6 billion in cash. So when you look down here, though, you can move on. You could see 39 weeks ended. So that means thus far this year, right, through the first 3 quarters, EPS is 0 cents. Net income is 0. So what that means is whatever they earn in Q4 in terms of net income and EPS, that's what the full year 2024 number will be. So it all comes down to Q4. And I think that's really good because when you look at last year, they turned a small profit, right? Very small profit on the bottom line, and they had a decently strong Q4 that put them over the edge because they were still negative in the beginning of the year. But look at this same time last year. This same time last year, they were at negative $56 million and negative 18 cents EPS. Right now, they're break even. So a stronger than expected Q4 could really move the needle for the company in terms of maybe stock price performance, because I think then the market would start to price in the fact that, hey, this company is going to be profitable from here on out. Yes, there are still challenges ahead in terms of getting revenue back on track, which I really feel like they're turning the corner. I mean, listen, I don't want to tell you guys anything for sure, but getting more involved with PSA, that is a significant step. Like, I really think that's helping them move in the right direction. So, time will tell. Again, I can't say for sure what's going to happen to the stock. The nature of the market after earnings is they could have amazing Q4 earnings and the stock could drop, right? And then it could rally after. Or vice versa. You just don't know, right? It could have a nice pop and then it could sell off. You just don't know in terms of the short term. Obsidian is plus EV, Joe. I would say it's plus EV. Something that is not talked about talked about much is new private labels. GameStop is something cooking for the new Switch, allegedly. That would be pretty dope. 100 million for 2024 is almost guaranteed. Remember, they closed and liquidated Europe. It's going to juice their numbers, but hurt profit margin. That's a good point, negative. Yeah, absolutely, yeah, because those are like one-time gains in terms of anything that they sold off that they're winding down, right? Like, what was it recently? They sold off their Italy operations. I might have it here somewhere. They announced they were selling off their Italy operations to a different store. I don't think I have it on here actually, but yeah, I don't think I do. That's the thing about this app. Like, it's great and all. I have this like huge like chart, but at the same time, I'm like, wait, where did I put this other information, right? So I do got to clean it up a little bit, but that's all right. We're just getting back on track here. Just getting back on track. But I really do wonder what this means, right? I wonder, is it just like two businessmen doing business outside of GameStop? But one could only think, with Ryan Cohen being CEO and chairman of the board, that this does have something to do with GameStop to an extent. Maybe there's some kind of international plan for GameStop, right? Because I don't think they want to just forever wind down their international exposure, or I should say international business. I feel like it's a situation where they wanted to scale it back and like, okay, once we build it out again, we want to make sure it's profitable and a well-oiled machine. Whereas it seemed like the past couple of years, they're trying to make these things work, trying to close on profitable locations, and they just saw like, hey, in certain regions, this is just flat out not going to work. And, of course, the naysayers will say, like, oh, yeah, of course it wasn't going to work. But that's what good business people do, in my opinion. It's being able to evolve, adapt, and make the difficult decisions to drive the business forwards. And when you look at the business priorities, they really highlight that here, right? So, omnichannel retail excellence. We aim to be the leading destination for games and entertainment products. And I wonder if in Q4 they will update this to say something along the lines of, cards and collectible products. Through our stores and e-commerce platforms to accomplish this, we are taking steps to ensure we are a fast and convenient solution for our customers. This includes increased product availability, fast fulfillment, and further improved customer service or customer experience. And also, the last time I went to GameStop, of course, I only went to one GameStop, so I can't speak for all of them. That would just be silly. But I noticed recently at my local GameStop that there were a lot more cards. There's a very dedicated section to cards coming in. And I was talking to the employee there. We were just like, while he was doing the grading for me or the process to get it sent in. And basically he was saying like, yeah, there's like some people that come in here like really consistently and just buy up like a ton of cards. So definitely a market for it, right? And also, circling back to the Italy subsidiary that they sold off, so GameStop Italy, which operated our Italian stores and e-commerce business, the stores in Italy will continue to operate under GameStop brand for a transition period of up to 6 months. We recognize impairment expense of $7.6 million on the assets during the third quarter of 2024. The proceeds and loss of the sale are expected to be immaterial to our financial results, so not that significant. Excuse me. Just getting over being sick, so I gotta get some water real quick. Oh, it's crazy. Well, I've been sick for like two. I mean, I'm all good now. Like it's just that little lingering like cough and like kind of dryness, but it's crazy. I feel like everyone's been so sick this year, and like it's just like it won't go away. Like everyone has some kind of like stomach bug or flu or just cold, sneezing. That's how it goes every winter, right? But it feels a little bit worse this winter for some reason. Let's see, Atari acquisition or partnership for retro gaming. Jan, thanks for being here. That's not a bad speculation. I definitely could see that being something that they're doing. I was trying to look into this guy a little bit more. I haven't dug too deep yet, but I don't see anything that necessarily like just pops out as something that's aligned with GameStop. Not to say that there isn't something in mind or some kind of plan. Also from reading about him a little bit, it does seem like he has a pretty good amount of money. So maybe he has some idea for the gaming or collectible industry, and he thinks it'll be a good deal with GameStop. It's also funny, some people saying Ryan Cohen's entering his Jensen Hung era, like how that guy, the Nvidia CEO, always wears a leather jacket. Ryan Cohen rocking the leather jacket here. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see. That's all I can really say at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, nobody knows. We could speculate, we could theorize, but nobody knows until like the company takes action. And that's the funny thing to me. It's like people are, oh, it's definitely this, oh, it's definitely that, and they're arguing about these theories, like about the Greg is secretly Roy and Kitty, and it's like at the end, it's like who cares? Like, like if it doesn't come from the company, and it's not affecting the company, then it's just like, who cares? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like completely numb to everything at this point. Following the story along for the past few years, all the ups and downs, and even like Tuesday when we had that 10% drop, right? Again, on like no news at all. Like the article says that I have over here. Oh yeah, like they're closing stores. That's why it's going down. Like that's something they've been consistently doing. It's not like suddenly a bunch of institutions and or individuals just said, "Oh yeah, they're closing stores. Let's sell off a bunch of stock." And also, the amount of volume to drop the stock 10%, a little bit suspicious if you ask me, right? And then also, you look at today. What happened here? Was this a big buyer of some kind? Was someone buying a bunch of calls and then makers, the algorithms automatically hedged, right? You could speculate on what this is. Is this Roaring Kitty, right? That's always fair speculation. Nobody truly knows, right? I don't know if there were any large like block trades in terms of like options, but then it dropped right back down after. But again, these type of moves or this, like, it doesn't get me excited. Like, wake me up. Like, when we get a 20+% move day, that's when I'm like, okay, this is pretty nuts, right? But it is interesting, prior to this drop, GameStop was pretty steadily rising for like the past several months, actually ever since like the PSA collaboration. So when you look back, the PSA collaboration was officially announced the 15th, Nat Turner on November 18th. So October 15th is right here. So stock is up pretty significantly from then, and then right around here was when it was announced that Nat Turner's a member of the board of directors, right? So maybe someone had some inside info that caused this little run up here. Hard to know for sure, but it's pretty steadily rising ever since then. Of course, we've had some periods where it dropped, and listen, drops are healthy in a uptrend. So it's just natural, to digress a little bit or to pull back a little bit. If it drops down more, just creates a buying opportunity for anyone that wants to go long on it. But again, know thyself, know your own like strategy and how you want to go about things. Because I feel like a lot of people get caught up in options just because like everyone's talking about it. Oh, I don't want to miss it. Oh, I want to make big money. But it's like you have to understand if you're buying a call option, especially far out of the money, like you're taking a massive gamble. And in my opinion, if you're going to do that, you should be prepared to lose the money. Like you should have that in your mind up front. Okay, if I'm going to buy this call, I should just already assume the money's gone. If it works out, fantastic. Great. But if you just already set your mind on like, okay, this money is gone. I think that's the best way to go about it because like buying calls is just so high risk. Nat Turner Sig cards from GME is 90% TCG. That makes average price per card $16.93. Divide that by the 8K and you put the 75,000 cards submitted for the first month. Unless GME gets a special rate, the wording in the 8K says money from GME to PSA. It doesn't say revenue. Okay, very good point. 100K per month. Sorry, I wasn't clear on that. No, you're good. So, theoretically, that's what, 1.2 million a year, and that's also without it scaling at this point, and it's still being relatively new. And also, you could imagine like kids are like, oh yeah, oh, I got my card graded at GameStop, and then it's like, oh, come on, mom, little Tim, my friend Timmy, told me he got his cards graded at GameStop. Come on, mom, like take me to the store to get my cards graded. Okay, like she looks it up. I don't know how to submit cards to PSA. Oh, I can just go to a GameStop nearby. Fine, we'll do that. Then she takes the kid to the store, and he's, oh, come on, I gotta buy this pack while we're here. I gotta buy this pack. So I really think it's gonna bring people in the store and just also open the doors for more people getting involved, like in the grading game. Join forces with AMC and open up units in their foyers and close high-rent stores. They have cash, and AMC has outlets with a ready-made customer attending movies. Just a thought. David, thanks for being here. But honestly, I just can't get behind them doing anything with AMC. I feel like sadly, Adam Aarons run the company into the ground, and the unfortunate reality of it is with AMC, they've raised capital over and over and over and over again, right? And I think I just saw recently that they raised capital, right? Like they finally have a little bump, and what do? They raise capital, right? And then it drops again. And even right here, right? Wasn't this supposed to like, I don't know. I guess this is just when Roy and Kate tweeted again. And sure enough, what did they do during this phase? They issued shares. They're just issuing shares to stay alive. And the unfortunate truth is like they're not doing anything to get back to profitable or shift the business model. So with that, I just can't get behind it. And also, Adam Aaron's like, oh, I own a lot of shares. Like believe me, guys, like I'm in this with you, but like he's also being massively compensated in cash. Whereas when you look at Ryan Cohen, you look at the rest of GameStop's board, they're being compensated in shares. So they are in line with their shareholders much more than AMC, in my opinion. A lot of room to grow. In October, PSA did 1.3 million cards in a month. GME did 5% of total PSA submissions in their first month. Interesting. Okay, so excuse me. So yeah, I feel like I got to crunch the numbers a little more. Actually, Banana, I remember. I think I put it over here somewhere. Oh man, I need some water. But there was like some napkin math, like on a Reddit post. This was it. Let's open it. So everyone's trying to guess, but you think why? So let's see. Well, so as of November 18, 2024, GameStop made 1.53 million in fees from submitting cards to PSA. And again, keep in mind the collaboration started on the 15th, so roughly 1 month. Napkin math, it's $15.99 times 9 plus $19.99 times 1. So if 9 out of every 10 cards is TCG, it would be $15.99. Now divided by 10, and that's your average price per card, $16.39. We already know GameStop revenue from this is $1.53 million. So $1.53 million divided by $16.39 is $93,000. Now my only question is, does that $1.53 million include shipping fees? I would assume it's its own category. Let's assume it is not, so that means GameStop has submitted roughly 93,300 cards from October 15th to November 2nd or earlier. Not sure what day the 1.53 million is pulled from, so let's say it's 2 months. Other things I want to bring up for the people that submitted their card in the first week or so, got them back lightning speed. And also, talking to the employee in the store I went to, at least, he did mention that in the beginning it was taking a while, and he's noticed it's been a lot faster. So just some little note there. Believe Leon Hart got it back 22 days. Now I'm seeing that time start to creep up. This is just an educated guess, but I'm guessing month one is about half the amount of cards than month two. So this is my educated guess. 1 month had about 33,000 submissions. Second month, 60,000. But we know GameStop did submit about 93,000 cards those 2 months. Thank you for your time. Please put your tinfoil hat back on and have a great weekend. So yeah, decent theory. And then also this is at a period, right? And this napkin math is like from the very beginning of it, where more people are going to talk about it, find out about it. And I was even talking to a guy at my job, and he was like, yeah, it's interesting. I've been meaning to send some cards in, so I think I'm going to do it through GameStop. And I'm like, yeah. So I really think this is the thing that's really going to drive them forwards. And I do wonder if they'll open up maybe like mini pop-up shops that are specifically for trading cards only and have, very limited, if any, like gaming type items. Again, just some speculation here. I don't really know. Time will tell, but that's me, Tetron. That's my Reddit handle. Oh, really? I didn't realize. Shout out to you, Negative Mania. No map 8307. Gotcha. But yeah, I remember. See, I saved it. I remember you sent it to me. Do you think shorts are going to probe GME? Why doesn't SE just ban them from the house, participate in the market? Oh, windfall. It would be simple, right? It would be nice if it was simple like that. But the thing is, like, it's just such a complicated market structure, like, when you dig into it. And then you also look at, like, who's involved in terms of, like, their connections and also, like, all these, like, legal loopholes that are in place in terms of, like, shorting it. And I always look back to, the Archegos situation where they went bust and they had a lot of custom basket swaps at the time of their bankruptcy. So with those custom basket swaps, essentially, they were making like their own, I guess the best way to describe it is kind of ETF or what the name of it, like basket of stocks, and putting whatever they want in there. And then another like counterparty was like executing it for them. So it's complex. That's really like the simplest answer. But that's where you could really go down the rabbit hole and you learn a lot about how market mechanics work. And certain positions can be suppressed, so to speak, or just not show up in standard reporting because of things like swaps, for example. But it's such a deep rabbit hole, so that's why I prefer to just kind of stick with the fundamentals of the company and what's happening with it. But that's just me. There's a lot of people talk about a lot of different things. Seen the guy that tracks cards that go on the website? I'll send you a link. Send the link. I'll definitely be sure to check that out. Oh man. Oh, congestion come back. But yeah, this definitely an interesting development, but I think, I'll already tell you what's gonna happen. I have just been in this story long enough. Someone's gonna say like, "Oh, I figured out where this picture was taken, and this picture was taken at this location, and the street address is 223, and because it's 223, that means that the stock is gonna explode on February 23rd, right? So just be ready. The crazy theories are gonna come out in terms of what this picture means, and please just take it with the utmost grain of salt. There's always these crazy theories, and for those of you that weren't here before. My speculation is because I was, showing this how I was like stuff like this is why people not closely following the GameStop story assume that everyone who owns a stock is out of their mind. When people make stuff like this, like, oh yeah, Greg's Twitter handle is Chewy's unique QSIP code used on 13G files, added numbers or memes, possible age of Ryan Cohen at the time the guys created. Like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Like, it's actually just ludicrous. And people in the outside looking in are casually following GameStop, see this stuff and they're like, these people are nuts. And it's almost like somebody or there are individuals out there purposely like pumping these crazy ideas out there and then facilitating it in terms of like a lot of bots interacting with it, right? So that it shows up on the average person's timeline, and then people see it and go, this is crazy. I'm never reading about GameStop and what's really going on with the company, because they just see this absolute craziness, and people just assume that everyone that owns the stock believes like all these crazy ideas. But again, like I was saying before, none of these like hype dates or crazy things ever come to fruition. So people say, oh, Greg's roaring kitty, Greg's roaring kitty. And what was it, right? Let me guess. It was supposed to come to fruition probably like earlier this week, right? And sure enough, every single time the stock dumps that there's some hype date, right? So it's almost like I theorize that it's almost like there are people like purposely pushing these crazy ideas and purposely, giving them interaction so that they show up on people's feeds to like basically drown out the real stuff that's being talked about in terms of the company and market mechanics and things that have been brought to light by people who are actually like looking at the facts and not just theorizing this crazy stuff, right? That's like my feeling at least, but that's just what it seems like all these crazy theories, but I don't know. It's hard to know for sure. That's the thing. But there are way more bots on Twitter than you maybe realize, right? So do you ever see stuff like this? Like this is 100% a bot account. Cheating isn't a mistake. It's a choice and a reflection of their character, not your words. So I got every failure teaches a lesson. It's up to you whether you see it as the enemy. Like this is pure AI. And when you look at this account, right? I'll show you guys right now. What is it? Saigon X. these there are so many of these bot accounts, right? Like look at their replies. It's a blessing to have a partner like that. True. Life is, but in genuine connections, like it's like all like AI. I mean, maybe not all of it, right? But I don't know. It just seems like it. Like this is a random example, but it's hard to know. That's the thing. The bots are getting so good. See, like just replying to all these that it's like, I don't know. The bots are getting so good, it's like almost hard to tell, right? And now I'm looking at this again and I'm like, maybe it's not a bot account, right? Like it's so hard to know. So that's where I'm like, these crazy ideas can be pushed out there and be like responded to by accounts that seem like real people, but like, are they really? I don't know. And there's like the dead internet theory where it's like majority of people online aren't even real people. It's actually just bot accounts that look like real people. And I saw something recently that it's like Facebook literally said like, yeah, like we are going to make like very in-depth AI profiles to be interacting with people. So basically like you could be having a conversation with someone and it might just be AI and you might not even realize it. It might be a profile that looks like a legit person, has legit bio, legit profile picture, and it might be like literally just a bot. And I was reading something or I was watching a video on it and they were saying like Meta or Facebook, whatever, came out and proudly said this, not even like trying to hide it, just saying like that's something they're planning to do. So it's like, I don't know, I'm throwing a lot of different stuff out there, but I've seen the guy that tracks cars. Oh no, I already saw that, but yeah, it's just in this crazy world, it's so hard to know what's true and what's not, who's pushing ideas, who has what agenda, right? And I don't even like to go down this road, but there's people who talk about a certain secret merger and a certain teddy bear, right? And it's like, oh my God, how are we still on this? Like, how are we still on this? This is old news. And it's like, when the average person sees something like that, they think everyone who holds the stock, holds GameStop is crazy because they see people talking about like a bankrupt company being like a secret merger. Ryan Cohen is the hero we all need, right? And it's just like, it's so frustrating to be like lumped into that group where it's like, I just like GameStop and I believe in the GameStop company. I don't care about AMC. I don't care about these secret mergers that are being theorized, right? Or these theories about, you know, the way Greg is secretly roaring kitty, right? And it's like it's almost like I don't know, I just can't help but think like these ideas are being pushed out there for one reason or another to shift their narrative for whatever reason someone might have intention to, right? I think you guys get what I'm saying here, but I digress. Can you Ryan Cohen buying Bitcoin with some of the cash they have? David, I've theorized on that. That's something that's been talked about in the past. Personally, I would be okay with it. I am a Bitcoin guy. I hold all my Bitcoin. I keep stacking sats. I have an auto buy on Bitcoin, but I just don't think that's something they're going to do because they could have did it. Let's look at Bitcoin right now. It's been rallying again, and honestly, I think it's probably going to a new all-time high next week. We'll see though, but they could have did it at any point in here, right? When it was being theorized, or even when it started running in here. So if they didn't do it at this point, I don't think they're going to do it. If they took like 10% of their cash reserves and did it, I wouldn't totally be opposed, honestly. I would personally be okay with it, but it just doesn't seem like something that they're going to do, given that they've sat on this cash for so long and they've just had it in, marketable securities, just earning yields, with higher interest rates, higher, I say higher, but higher than they've been for a long time. So I just don't see them doing that. I wouldn't personally be opposed, but at the same time, like I'm totally fine with them not doing that because one, it would just start like moving with Bitcoin, I feel like. And two, I already I own Bitcoin to own Bitcoin and I own GameStop to own GameStop. So like I'm fine with them being separate. So but yeah, I mean to touch on Bitcoin a little bit, you know, I think we might be seeing a supply shock coming. You could just see steadily, like the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges is just dropping and dropping and dropping. And if there is ultimately a strategic reserve that happens, I feel like not only will the United States do it, like it kind of becomes game theory where it's like our allies will start to do it, and even enemies like Russia and China. Like it'll kind of be everyone's trying to rush to do it if the U.S. starts doing it, right? Because if the U.S. announces plans to do 200,000 Bitcoin over a 5-year period to ultimately wind up with 1 million Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, You don't think other countries in that period are going to start rushing to buy it, knowing that the U.S. is accumulating it? And the whole thing, what it boils down for to me with Bitcoin and why I believe in it for the long term is that nobody can create it out of thin air, and that's a major problem. That the U.S. dollar and fiat currency worldwide can be created out of thin air, and I just don't see that ever changing. And I really feel like that's why the world needs Bitcoin. I mean, I'm a big Bitcoin guy. I know not everyone who's involved in GameStop loves Bitcoin, and that's all right. You know, not everyone has to think the same thing. Like, you have to be, what is the thing? It's like you have to be open to anything but attached to nothing, right? Like, you have to be open to ideas, but not like attached to anything. And that's also with these like crazy theories. I feel like people get so attached to these theories, like it has to be true, and like you say, nah, honestly, like I just don't think so. And they're like, you're an idiot. Oh my god. And like it's easy to be loud on the internet, especially when you have like a faceless account. But I just feel like people become so attached to things, and it's like you have to kind of just let your ego go and be able to say sometimes, like, okay, I was wrong, right? If Roaring Kitty turned out to be like Greg turned out to be a secret account for Roaring Kitty, I would admit I was wrong. But also, right? Like, can you search your own? How do you search your own page? I don't even know how to. I don't think you could do it from here. But when I talked about how I was like, there's no merger with Bed Bath and GameStop, people rip me to shreds. You're crazy. Oh my gosh, idiot. Blah, blah, blah. And say, oh, you look like this, you look like that. The craziest things. And I'm like, I'm literally just disagreeing with you. Why are you so offended by it, right? Like, it's such a bizarre world we live in. It really is. It really is such a bizarre world. Like, it's literally okay to disagree. Like, I don't know why like people get so bent out of shape. But you know, that's just the nature of the world we're in right now. So you have to kind of just roll with the punches, right? And just know though, you know, when people are coming up with these crazy theories, like the whole Greg thing, and just wait, right? I'm telling you now, there's gonna be crazy theories that come out of this post. People gonna say, "Oh, it means this. Oh, the angle of the picture. I decoded what this says in the background. I realized who Sultan's like long lost cousin is, whose brother, whose dad, whose friend." Right? Like, there's gonna be some crazy theory that comes. Just take it with a grain of salt. If GameStop's not saying anything, then it's hard to believe it's true, right? Because of all the ideas that are surrounding it, or pushed out there, I should say. But yeah, I mean, I think I'll kind of leave it here for today. Kind of want to save my voice. I can feel the congestion coming back, but I am closely following, you know, the Bitcoin on exchanges, and you look at Bitcoin balances over time. Coinbase is definitely the most significant one to look at, I should say, because a lot of, you know, institutions are using Coinbase. Actually, almost all institutions. When you look at Bitcoin ETFs, almost every single Bitcoin ETF custodies their Bitcoin on Coinbase. So if Coinbase has a really low amount of Bitcoin on exchange, that tells you like the institutions are gobbling it up, right? And you could also see it in ETF inflows. And keep in mind also, Bitcoin ETFs are only about 1 year old. So a lot of people who are never even thinking about touching Bitcoin in the past are still like wrapping their head around it. So, and I've also read some stuff about how people are having difficulty withdrawing from Coinbase, and they're saying, oh, you need to put like a 2 month hold. And it's almost like Coinbase doesn't have, you know, the Bitcoin to withdraw or the funds to withdraw because like there's just been a forever bull market. Or I forgot, I wish I saved the post I had saw, but let's see if we can see it. Coinbase withdrawal. Let's see. Needs more options. People are giving false reviews. Submit. Let's see. There was a pretty big one. Oh yes, this is the exact one I was thinking of. Hey Brian Armstrong, can you tell my fiance why we can't get married at the venue we picked because Coinbase refused to let me withdraw my deposit, won't let me access my funds for another 2 months. I've had the same bank account since I first got into crypto with Coinbase. It's the same account that payroll would direct deposit my paychecks when I worked at Coinbase. Please explain to me how blocking access to my account for 2 months is protecting me because I can't get any support information or support from your system. Might be time to update your system. Also, if you reach out to Coinbase, from what I understand, you can't email them, and it takes like weeks to get an email. Like, I'm sorry, you can't call them, and it takes like weeks to get an email response. Like, their customer service is horrible. Like, it's baffling to me how big they're. But I'm sure, you know, when an institution calls, they answer right away. Like, oh yeah, they don't care about the other people, right? This happened to me last week. It was resolved after I tweeted about it. It happened to me again earlier this week. I wasn't going to tweet about it, but the fact it's so rampant is insane. Something's wildly off in their risk management systems. It's sad that X is the only way to resolve, but that's what it took for me too. Can't believe it happened to you again. I don't know if it's AI overflagging, short staffing, or what, but systems are doing more harm than goods. Let's see. DM me. We're going to class action against bald people. Sorry about this, Griffin. We'll dig in fast. So at least I like responding in here, but why does it take it getting to that, right? Like, I don't know. It's crazy. It just seems like odd. Like, you know what I mean? Like that they don't want to let people withdraw. So got to just keep reading, right? But also another interesting story in Bitcoin market, the way MicroStrategies keeps accumulating over and over and over, just buy, buy, buy. And, little things like this, right? Seeing more and more companies just start to accumulate like Bitcoin or just hold it, on their balance sheet as an alternative asset. So I feel like it's emerging. It says institutions accumulating significantly more Bitcoin. Coinbase Prime indicated heightened OTC trading activity while Bitcoin bounces on exchange hit a 7-year low. So, that's the whole thing with Bitcoin too. If there does continue to be steady demand as we've seen over the past several months, and I would say even since the Bitcoin ETF launched, right? Because when you look back at when Bitcoin came out, let's get it over here, the Bitcoin ETF, it was roughly 1 year ago. So it's more than doubled since then, right? It was around like 46,000-ish the day the Bitcoin ETF launched. So it's more than doubled at this point since Bitcoin ETFs have been available in the open market, and now you have options available on Bitcoin ETFs, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just becoming more and more accessible to people, and it's not you have to realize too, it's not overnight that everybody just goes buys a Bitcoin ETF. It steadily, comes to fruition over time, and I just feel like more Bitcoin's been accumulated by MicroStrategy, more Bitcoin's been accumulated by institutions, more like by individuals such as myself. And guess what? When there's like almost none left on exchanges, it's not like someone could just go create more Bitcoin. All that happens is then the bids move up because people are trying to buy it. And if there's very limited amount available, the price will move up. And then when the price moves up, it naturally brings in sellers, right? And then when you have sellers, that gets bought up. If that gets all bought up, then the price goes higher, right? So if it's a situation where there's a limited supply available, which based on the charts, right, if the trend continues, so I keep getting mixed up here, but if the trend continues, right, this trend we've seen, this is a 1 year period, look at it all time, right? Like, so this hasn't always been a trend, but what do you notice? When did the Bitcoin available on exchanges go down? Like, when did that trend start? Right when the Bitcoin ETF launched, right? Bitcoin ETF launched about 1 year ago today. So let's say right here. Initially, right, didn't really impact, but since then, dropping. And look at it, I feel like the drop has accelerated as of late. So, in a 1 year period, going from roughly 3 million Bitcoin available on exchanges to 2.3 million, not to mention, there is still a little bit of supply increasing. So Bitcoin is being mined every day. But with the Bitcoin halving, it means half as much Bitcoin is mined every day. But again, it's not like someone could just go create more Bitcoin. It has to be mined, and it can only be mined on a, so much per day. So if people are just buying and holding, it's just this number of Bitcoin on exchange is just going to continue to fall. And if that continues to happen, what happens when this number gets like sub 1 million, right? Sub 500,000. And if that's around the same time that governments around the world, maybe not even just the US, are establishing a Bitcoin reserve, we're going to see a supply shock, right? And that's where we could see dramatic movement in it. But of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not here to tell you what's going to happen. I'm just here to speculate on it a little bit, see what I'm seeing, share some different data points with you guys. And the data shows that less and less Bitcoin is on exchange, and more people are talking about it. And the administration coming in, whatever your opinion is about them, they are pro Bitcoin. And the structure of, even beyond just the administration, just some different parties that now have, positions of power are pro Bitcoin. So I think it's really interesting. It's definitely really interesting. And yeah, I mean, for me, my two most significant holdings are GameStop and Bitcoin. And to the average person, that sounds like ludicrous. They're like, you're crazy. Why would that be? Why would those be your biggest holdings? But I think Bitcoin, like I'm talking about, nobody can create it. I know the dollar's endlessly created. That's what it boils down to for me. For GameStop, I think it's a unique opportunity. I think there are some very interesting things underlying, I would say, in terms of what happened a few years ago with the sneeze and the build up to that. I think those, but I don't like dig too deep into those underlying things because I believe that so long as the company succeeds, drives forwards, becomes increasingly net profitable, as we've seen them, they can and people always knock them like, oh well, the revenue's falling, but net income continues to improve, and 2024 is absolutely going to be profitable, and I think here on out they're always going to be consistently more profitable, or at the very least the same level of profitability. And then you just got to focus on getting revenue back on track, right? And that's why they're evolving and adding the PSA cards and leaning into the collectibles market. So in doing all that, anything underlying, any weird basket swaps, short seller interest that's suppressed for whatever reason or however way it's suppressed, in my opinion, all of that will naturally bubble to the surface over time if the company succeeds. So that's why I just focus on what the company's doing, the direction they're going in, because I think anything underlying will just bubble to the surface if the company succeeds. So yeah, I think that's kind of all I got for you guys today. My throat's starting to bother me, so I do want to wrap it up here. And next week, stay tuned. If you don't already, follow me on Twitter. I post on here a bunch of random stuff. Have a lot of fun on Twitter. I don't know. I still call it Twitter X, whatever you want to call it these days. But stay tuned for my elongated AI video. And yeah, just sauce me a follow here, and then you'll find out what I'm streaming. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Again, always do your research, do your own due diligence, make your own determinations, and really also just know yourself. Like if you're not going to sleep well at night because you're putting too much into GameStop, don't, right? Don't. Or Bitcoin, don't. If calls feel too much like gambling, then don't touch them. If you have an appetite for risk and you're willing to look at it as like, all right, I'm going to let this ride. And if it goes up a lot, great. If not, so be it. I'm totally fine with this little portion of money I put aside being lost. And, obviously you got to know your own financial situation to make the determination of what's little and what's not. Then go for it, right? Like if you have an appetite for risk, go ahead, right? And for me, what I've started doing is I've started selling puts, and I find that to be really interesting. And the reason I do that is because I feel like I'm essentially taking the side of the house, and generally speaking, the house always wins, right? Because as a whole, more options expire worthless than in the money, right? Just when you look at all options across all stocks, all across the markets, right? And then worst case scenario, my put gets exercised. I have to buy 100 shares. Fine. I'll turn around and sell calls. And you might think, but Tetron, that's bearish. Like, why would you sell calls at GameStop? Again, this is completely separate from my share position. And I've also dabbled with it a little bit too and doing it with Mara. And I just got exercised today, right? So now I'm going to turn around and sell Mara calls. And that's fine. That's like a specific account. It's a specific thing I'm trying. And I'm keeping it completely separate from my long positions. And that's how I'm going about it, right? But it doesn't mean you have to. You got to just figure out what works best for you. Everyone, when you're trading, investing, and I think trading and investing are two very different things. Trading is, being active in it. Investing is like putting it in, putting money consistently in, and just letting it ride for the long term, right? But whatever you want to do, right? Trading, investing, or maybe a mix of both. I think it really comes down to knowing yourself and understanding you're going to make mistakes along the way, and it's all a journey. You got to keep improving over time, right? Just like GameStop's evolving and improving, you have to do the same for yourself in your journey in the stock market or crypto market or whatever your cup of tea is, right? But yeah, I think we'll leave it there for today. Make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. I think we're good, but all right, yeah, just about out of breath, so we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. I will be streaming again next week. I'm going to go for 2 days next week. Not sure what days yet, so be sure to follow me on X and Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Tetron Invest, and I'll be tweeting out next week when I'm streaming. So take care. Have a good night. Have a good weekend.